is going to look a little bit like Romania and less like Egypt. You know, the heads of Libya are going to have to leave the country. There's going to have to be some kind of drastic measures, unfortunately.
You speak of drastic measures. What do you make so far of the response or lack of it from the United Nations, from the United States? We're expecting President Obama to speak shortly in about 45 minutes' time, but what do you make of international responses so far and what's going on in Libya?
Yeah. You know, we put a lot of emphasis on the international response, and I think the most that the international community can do, I mean, there are two things. There's two things the U.S. can do. One is to embolden the people with a strong, very strong message. And two is to freeze Gaddafi's assets and Gaddafi's property overseas. I mean, Switzerland took a pretty good position with Egypt, but it was after Mubarak left office that it froze Mubarak's assets. What we need to see is a freezing of assets now. Not sanctions on Libya, but sanctions on Gaddafi and his properties and his companies and so on. Because that's where the real pressure is. The economic interests with the ruling party and the ruling family is where you're going to hit home, and not sanctions. As you're listening to the news, sanctions is long term, and even if that even works. The issue is how do you do something in the moment, and if Obama is going to come and speak, it needs to be a very firm position and something along freezing his assets, Gaddafi's assets, and a no-fly zone would be helpful. But otherwise, then you get into the kind of intervention that can then embolden Gaddafi and say, look, America is on the side is intervening in our affairs. So that can be a bit tricky.
All right, Dr. Sami Hermes, thank you very much for that. Now we can go to our regular look at what social media sites are saying about all of this going on in Libya, and it's over to Imran Khan at our web desk. Imran.
Thanks, Doreen. Well, the web is a wonderful source of opinion and information, but a lot of it is simply context-free. Well, here on the web desk, we cut through the fog to give you an accurate picture as possible. Now, what's happening in Libya is extraordinary. Libyans are getting around the crackdown by speaking to friends and family outside of the country and getting information out that way. To the micro-blogging site Twitter next to hear examples of that. Now, since the uprising began, we've been getting reports that Gaddafi's regime is recruiting mercenaries in neighbouring countries to fight protesters. One tweeter says, reports of demonstrations in Egyptian city of Marsa Matruh against Gaddafi's attempts to recruit mercenaries in the area. Now, this is just one tweet, but it illustrates just how things are progressing in eastern Libya. Benghazi issues its first newspaper after it's freed, called Libya Newspaper, with a logo of Omar Mukhtar and the Libyan flag. And sticking with Benghazi, this on the fear that civil war could break out. A banner held in mass Benghazi protest, it read, Libya is one, Tripoli is its capital. Now, a Libyan girl who we've been speaking to from outside the country has set up her own YouTube channel. She's posting footage from family members, and this one's interesting as it appears to show a Chinook helicopter over what we're told is Jamhuriya Street in the capital. Now, others have reported that mercenaries have been moving about the capital using such helicopters. Now, given the problems of getting footage out from Libya, AlJazeera has made an appeal on several sites for people to send us images directly to our Your Media site. Here's one we received a few hours ago from a guy who told us it was shot on Sunday while he and his friends were on their way to Green Square. Hidden shooters apparently started firing on the people there. And staying with Jamhuriya Street, Tripoli, this footage was posted today. It appears to show the aftermath of clashes in the capital. Now, everything we have seen so far points to a very heavy crackdown on the protesters. So keep up to date with the very latest on our live blog, which is updated every few minutes throughout the day. AlJazeera.net/English is the place to be. There's great reporting, video, opinion, analysis from some of the best in the business, both inside and outside of Libya. And the web desk needs you guys to stay involved, so much of what we have been doing and reporting comes from you.
All right, Imran, thank you. Well, from Imran to Julie McDonald in London now with details of a day when Greece came to a standstill during a general strike. Julie.
Thanks, Doreen. Yes, it was also a day that ended in violence and widespread damage. 5 people were injured and another 20 detained after demonstrators clashed with police. Over 30,000 attended the rallies protesting against government austerity cuts. Sonia Gallego reports.
An eruption of fury, a country at a standstill. Greece's capital, Athens, once again the scene of violent clashes. Protesters going head-to-head with police in the latest rally against sweeping economic reforms. The deep resentment felt by workers, already feeling the pressure from the crippling austerity measures, show no signs of abating. Nor has Greece's recession. Unemployment has risen to nearly 15%, hitting the country's youth especially hard. 1 in 3 are currently without a job. And those working in the state sector face lower wages and more job losses for several years to come, a result of the cuts aimed at reducing Greece's mountain of debt.
The measures must be dropped right now. Our lives can't go on like this. Otherwise, we'll see the same thing that's happened in Tunisia and Libya.
We don't believe the measures are necessary. We're not responsible for the crisis, and we shouldn't pay a penny out of our own pockets for it.
In a deal with the European Union and International Monetary Fund last May, a $150 billion bailout was secured to stop Greece's descent into bankruptcy. Since then, workers have protested in droves, calling nationwide strikes and demonstrations. The country virtually paralyzed as public transport ground to a halt. Vital health services affected as hospitals reduced their facilities. In a show of sympathy, thousands of small businesses and more middle-class groups have joined the strikes in more numbers than before. And with the strain stronger than ever, the government is under pressure to tackle widespread tax evasion. But for now, that won't stop Greece's economy from shrinking this year, which will make the current unrest a more common sight. Sonia Gallego, Al Jazeera.
Ireland is preparing to go to the polls on Friday in an election being described as historic. The main opposition party, Fine Gael, is likely to win, but polls suggest it'll fall short of an overall majority. The snap election is the result of former Prime Minister Brian Cowen being forced to resign following a multi-billion-dollar international bailout last year. A final televised debate was met with mixed reaction in Dublin.
I'm not really interested in choosing who rules us, because essentially at the moment we're ruled by the IMF, we're ruled by politicians who don't give a damn about ordinary people. What needs to happen is people need to get together and organise.
What do I want from the new government? A bit of honesty, a bit of consistency, and that's really what I want. A bit up front.
Hopefully good changes, because it's been terrible, really terrible. Better jobs. Education. I have kids going to college, so future for them.
A former Serbian police general has been jailed for crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court for the former Yugoslavia. Vlastimir Đorđević was sentenced to 27 years for ordering the killings of Albanians during the Kosovo War. The judge said he participated in a joint criminal mission to change the